Before light even had a name, the universe was nothing but an endless expanse of emptiness, a place without above or below, without east or west. There was only stillness so deep that even nothingness itself seemed to be asleep. Nothing moved, nothing breathed. Everything was just a smooth, soft sheet of blackness, stretching into infinity like a breath that had not yet been exhaled. In that silence, there was no sound, no color, no concept of existence. Nothing had yet been born. Time had not begun to flow, and space had not yet opened. Every possibility, every future, every world, all lay contained within a single point, smaller than a grain of sand, motionless, closed, waiting. If one could listen closely enough, perhaps they would hear the faintest vibration, the first heartbeat of the cosmos. Not an explosion, not a roar, but a thin ripple, gentle as the first breath of a newborn. That vibration did not shatter the darkness, it merely stirred it as though the void itself were awakening from an eternal sleep. No one knows what caused that first tremor. No one saw it, no one heard it. But from that moment, the impossible became possible. A single point of stillness began to swell to expand, and within it, the first rays of light emerged. They did not know where they were going, only that they had to leave. The universe had no shape yet, but it had discovered motion. Like a droplet falling onto a calm lake, it drew out the first ripples. Wave followed wave, spreading outward endlessly. The invisible suddenly found rhythm. The stillness began to flow, soft, slow, and graceful. And within that flow, the darkness began to thin, not because it was pushed away, but because something new was being born within it, a small, fragile, but unwavering spark. It trembled in the coldness of space, but it did not fade. It spread outward light as a sigh touching the darkness, like a gentle greeting. And so, light opened its eyes and looked around, realizing it was in a place that had never held anything before. It turned expanded, and in that instant, the universe was born, not with a roar, but with a deep, steady breath. From that tiny point, energy poured out not in any direction, not along any path, but everywhere at once. It had no goal, no thought, only the quiet urge to exist. And when energy met energy, it made heat. When heat spread, it made light. When light flared, darkness stepped back, and the first world began to breathe. There were no stars, no planets, no forms, only an ocean of shimmering light swirling unsteady, but full of promise. Everything in the universe then was rhythm, expanding, contracting, merging, dissolving. It was an invisible dance between energy and shadow. If someone had been there to watch from afar, they would have seen a vast sea of light slowly moving smooth, as mist, silent but alive, breathing in long, deep intervals. The light did not chase away the darkness. They coexisted, intertwined, forming the first music of time, and time too was just being born. It opened its eyes and saw energy flowing light, dancing the universe, growing with every breath. From that moment on, there was before and after, near and far, not yet, and becoming. In that instant, something small, almost invisible happened. The universe inhaled for the first time. That breath carried with it billions upon billions of years to come, ages of blazing light, of newborn stars, and of endless expansion. But right now, within that silence, we are still in that very first moment when darkness had not yet vanished and light was still trembling, when the universe did not yet know what it would become, only that it had begun. And from that place, a faint heartbeat echoed, unclear, uncertain, but enough to make the void tremble. That heartbeat would one day become the song of countless stars. The darkness shivered, then slowly dissolved, yielding to new light. A small, pure brightness began to spread. The universe seemed to whisper so softly, "I am awakening." And that was the beginning of everything. The moment when darkness was still whole, and the first light brushed against the heart of space. Next, that light would no longer be alone. It would surge, expand, and give birth to the first stars. And in the universe's next breath, light would begin to know its own name. The first light did not come with an explosion, nor with blinding brilliance, nor with sound. It arrived like a breath, long, deep, and gentle. From within the awakened void, energy surged forth like a soft sea of fire spreading everywhere. No direction, no boundary, only light learning how to move, how to expand, how to fill the emptiness. Tiny particles, invisible, weightless, untouchable, found one another in that sea of brightness. They swirled, embraced, and intertwined into delicate strands of energy. When those strands brushed together, the very first rays of light were born. A fragile glow, trembling like a candle in the wind, and yet it was the beginning of everything we would one day call the sky. The universe then had no form. It was a haze of molten red, flickering like the slow, steady breath of a giant being. Particles drifted in the light, unaware of what they were unaware of, where they were going, only knowing that together they were creating something vast. Light continued to spread. It flowed through space like a river of fire, searching for its course. Wherever light passed, darkness stepped back, not vanishing, merely watching in silence. From this moment on, light and darkness began to coexist, not as enemies, but as two halves of the same breath. And then, among that ocean of radiance, a miracle occurred. In one small corner of the universe where dense clouds of gas embraced one another, the heat grew so immense that nothing could withstand it. In that instant, the first star ignited. No one heard it, no one saw it, but within the expanding universe, a single spark flared brighter than everything around it. It did not just shine, it sang. Its light resonated like music, rippling outward, touching places where even time had not yet arrived. The first star, radiant but lonely. No planets circled it, no companions kept it company. Only an endless sea of fire and waves of infinite light. Yet still it burned, not for anyone, not for anything, simply to tell the universe I exist. From that moment, more sparks began to appear. One, then two, then hundreds, then thousands. Each star, a tiny lamp glowing in the ocean of darkness. Their light did not compete, but blended, weaving together the first shimmering fabric of the heavens. The universe was no longer silent. It hummed with the vibrations of light, with the breathing of stars. Distant sparks seemed to whisper to one another, exchanging signals in a language only they could understand, the language of fire, of light, of time itself. The young stars, newly born, burned themselves with pure joy. They knew no exhaustion, no limit. They only knew how to shine so brightly that their very bodies scattered into waves of light spilling across space. From this moment on, the universe finally had color. Amid this vast ocean of brilliance, clouds of gas, continued to spin and gather. Every movement of theirs was a promise to the future. We too will shine, for that is the instinct of the universe, to be born in light, even if only for a fleeting moment within eternity. But even in all this radiance, emptiness remained. Between the blazing stars were stretches of darkness, cold, quiet, patient. That was where shadow still lingered, waiting for something new, a rhythm and echo yet to come. The first star, and then the second, the third generation, each took its turn to awaken. Every time a star was born, the universe grew larger, space expanded, and light traveled farther, reaching places where silence had once reigned. If one could have seen that moment, they would have witnessed a luminous ocean waves of light rising and falling each star, a crest merging into another. It was a dance of fire, endless and serene. The first light did more than illuminate the universe. It awakened it. Every ray was a memory, a breath, a heartbeat. And when those rays met, time began to flow. The universe found its own rhythm, the rhythm of light. From this moment, darkness was no longer alone. It had found a companion light breath and the first trace of life. And in that heartbeat, amid the endless sea of fire, the universe played its first note in an infinite symphony. Light spread outward, carrying warmth and a promise of countless worlds yet to be born. Tiny specks of dust drifted in that light, slowly gathering, weaving together, preparing for what was to come. Something smaller than light, yet no less wondrous, the first particles, learning how to become stars. The universe exhaled softly, and in that breath there was a whisper, "Now, the stars are ready to learn how to burn." When the first light spread across the void, the universe was like a child just opening its eyes. Everything was still chaotic, formless. The fragile glimmers, the swirling streams of gas, all were learning how to exist. And amid that great flow, the first stars began their greatest lesson, how to burn. No one taught them that. There was no melody, no guiding hand. Only instinct, a whisper, already written within every grain of dust, every ray of light. When the clouds of gas folded under their own weight, they created heat. And in that moment, fire was born. Not the kind of fire we know, but a silent dance between the tiniest particles of matter, a place where energy was freed, where light began to have its own breath. A newborn star just awakened, trembled like a fragile creature, adrift in an endless sea. The temperature within it soared to the unimaginable. It did not know what it was, only that to survive it had to keep burning. And so the star inhaled by drawing in matter around it. Then it exhaled as light. Each breath of its life lasted millions of years, and the universe stayed silent, listening only to that slow, steady rhythm. Some stars burned quickly, fiercely, like a streak of light racing across the sky, living intensely, then vanishing. Others burned more gently, patiently surviving for billions of years, quietly illuminating the space around them. Whether brief or enduring, they all shared one purpose: to keep darkness from swallowing the universe whole. No one could hear their voices yet. If we could listen deeply enough, we might sense a faint sound, like a heartbeat echoing through the void. It was the sound of life in its purest form, not human life, not planetary life, but the life of light itself. The universe had grown more radiant now, Stars scattered everywhere, each one a candle in the long night. Their light was not as strong as the sun's today, but soft and warm like a breath carried through the wind. They burned not to be seen, but because that was their nature, to exist by shining. Among the countless stars, some young ones made mistakes as they learned. They burned too fast and exploded. Yet from their ashes, matter was released, seeding new stars. And so, an endless cycle began: birth, brightness, decay, and rebirth. The universe never stopped breathing. Each star carried its own hue: blue, white, yellow, red, like different notes in the same symphony. When they burned together, their light blended into a color with no name, the color of time. And from that color, the sky slowly became alive, vibrant, full of motion. From afar, the universe looked like a calm ocean where billions of lights floated like gentle waves. But if one looked closer, each star was a living world, a massive sphere of fire spinning alone in the dark. They never paused, never rested. They only burned without complaint, without hesitation, without sound. They knew that light could never stop, for if it did, everything would return to shadow. Some stars were born together, twining like twins, circling one another around an invisible center. Some wandered alone, drifting through the deep black sea. But wherever they were, they burned, holding on to their one true essence light. That light traveled farther than they ever knew. Even millions or billions of years after a star's death, its light would still be moving, reaching the farthest corners of the universe, touching the eyes of a creature that did not yet exist when the star was born. That is how the stars whispered their messages into time. If the universe could speak, perhaps it would say, "Be patient like the stars, for nothing in existence lasts longer than the patience of light. They burn knowing they will fade. They shine knowing they will be forgotten. And through their silence, they keep the universe just a little warm, a little hopeful, amid the endless ocean of dark." In that quiet expanse, the young stars continued to practice, learning how to hold their fire, how to keep their hearts burning steady. And when they grew stronger, when their rhythm became stable, their light grew brighter than ever before. From lonely sparks, clusters began to form families of stars moving together, bound by the gentle pull of gravity. The universe exhaled softly, and light swayed within that breath like a dance. And so, across the vastness of space, a new chapter was about to begin, when stars would no longer burn alone, but would find one another, joining in groups, in flocks in the first shimmering galaxies ever born. In the vast heart of the universe, clouds of gas drifted slowly through the dark. They were enormous, large enough to swallow hundreds of suns, yet light and soft like mist. Inside those clouds, stardust moved quietly, swirling together in the slow dance of time. No one commanded them. Nothing urged them on. Everything unfolded in the most natural way, like a song with no musician, yet its rhythm never faltered. Tiny grains of dust sought one another. They collided, embraced, and began to spin around an invisible center. With each rotation, they grew warmer, denser, drawing closer together. Within that spiral, something was forming, small, fragile, but pulsing, with its own faint breath. The heat increased little by little. Then, in a single moment, deep within the dense sea of gaslight appeared. It wasn't bright, nor blazing, just a tiny spark amid the vastness. A young star had been born, trembling, delicate, like a candle newly lit in the wind of a long night. That light wasn't strong enough to illuminate its surroundings. It flickered, glowing, fading, then glowing again. Yet, no matter how faint, it was real light, the first breath of a young star. Amid the boundless waves of energy, the universe paused for a heartbeat, as if listening. The young star began to inhale by drawing in gas and dust from its nearby space. Then it exhaled through light, through heat, through faint waves that rippled outward, and so began its breathing, slow, steady, patient. Each breath marked a milestone in its journey to become a steadfast lamp of the sky. The clouds of gas around it began to stir. The pressure from without and the heat from within created the first stellar wind, a gentle breeze carrying billions of tiny grains of dust, scattering them far and wide. Within that breath, stardust was released, sowing the seeds of future light. The young star was still learning to balance itself. Sometimes it burned too fiercely, then dimmed, then flared up once more, like a child learning to walk, falling, rising, and trying again. The universe watched patiently, unhurried, for here no moment was ever too late. A blink of the universe could span 1,000,000 years. Its soft light spread outward, touching the nearby dust, making it shimmer like drifting crystals in the dark. The whole region began to glow gently, tenderly, not harsh or dazzling, but warm enough to awaken other clouds from their slumber. And then another star ignited nearby, then another. One by one, new sparks emerged across the same region of space. Each young star breathed burned and sent its light afar. They didn't know it, but their light was weaving the first luminous fabric, the earliest form of a star cluster. Some stars burned fast and hot. Others glowed slowly and quietly. Yet all carried within them the universe's first breath, the instinct born from darkness to bring light wherever they stood. From afar, that sight looked like a golden mist blossoming into flowers. Each petal of light radiated energy in all directions, while the surrounding haze drifted softly around them. The whole space seemed to sing not with a sound one could hear, but with a feeling one could only sense with the heart. The universe said nothing. It merely expanded, wrapping those small sparks in its tender cloak of shadow. Light and darkness coexisted, breathing together, telling the oldest story ever told, the story of creation. The young star grew. Its light strengthened its glow, steadied. The gas around it faded, revealing a blazing sphere of fire, burning in solitude. The star had outgrown its fragility. It had become part of the great symphony of light across the cosmos, a small note, yet essential. When one young star inhaled, millions of others inhaled with it. When it exhaled, its light joined theirs, weaving together into a collective glow that made the sky ever more radiant. The universe was no longer pure darkness. It was a vast tapestry embroidered with billions of stellar breaths. And so, in each slow beat of time, the universe became a garden of light in bloom. The young stars grew gathered and entwined in invisible arms of gravity. They were no longer alone. Those clusters of stars began to move, spinning around one another like dancers. The light from one star brushed against another, merging into long, glowing streams, rivers of radiance flowing across the sky. The universe was painting its first shapes, its first vivid portraits in the endless night. From that moment on, the breath of young stars was no longer solitary. It joined the collective rhythm of countless other lights, together composing the next chapter of the cosmos, the chapter where stars would grow together, lighting the infinite dark as one. No star is ever truly born alone. Deep within immense clouds of gas, hundreds, even thousands of stars stirred awake together. They opened their eyes at the same moment, seeing one another through the soft sea of light, and from that very first instant, the universe taught them its first lesson: light is never alone. The young stars entwined within the gentle arms of gravity, spinning slowly like children, learning to walk to the same rhythm. Some clusters were perfectly round compact, where every star moved gracefully around a radiant center. Others were loose, chaotic, playful, where stars brushed past each other, collided, drifted apart again, leaving vast pockets of space between them. The light from thousands of stars blended together, not harsh but soft, like a shimmering river flowing across the sky. Within each cluster, energy spread like warmth through a darkened room. When one young star exhaled, its light brushed against its neighbors, and all of them trembled together. Each cluster became a living being, breathing, glowing, singing as one. Beams of light intertwined, reflecting off one another, forming hazy, luminous strands. These clusters, though separated by thousands of light years, seemed like small families. In the night, each star, with its own role, the stars at the center, burned fiercely, while those at the edges glowed softly like lullabies. Sometimes, a cluster became so peaceful that even time seemed to stop. Light drifted slowly, like the sigh of the universe. But then, time, the quiet companion, began to move again. Some stars drifted away, following their own orbits, leaving emptiness behind. Others grew old. Their light weakened, then faded out. The cluster was no longer as full as it once was. Trails of faint light scattered, dimming in the sea of black. Yet they did not vanish. Their light continued its journey, drifting through the void until it merged with that of other clusters. Everything dissolved, but only to begin again, like a song, without an ending, shifting gently from one note to the next. The remaining clusters still burned uneven, imperfect, but beautiful. Some rotated slowly, like arms, embracing their light, gathering at the center, glowing bright and calm. Others opened like great flowers blooming in darkness, their petals made of thousands of tiny stars, shining in all directions. Seen from afar, the sky would look like a field of fireflies that never go out. The light flickered, pulsed, scattered, then gathered again, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. Not loud, not violent, only a long, tender lullaby. Every now and then, one star within the cluster became too hot, too strong, and exploded. A brilliant blast rippled outward, waves of light spreading wide enough to embrace the entire cluster. Yet instead of destruction, those waves carried stardust far and wide, sowing the seeds of new clusters. The death of one star became the first breath of hundreds more. It was the universe's gentle law. There are no endings, only transitions. The clusters grew together, changed together. They knew nothing of sorrow or separation, only motion. When a cluster broke apart, its light found its way to others, connecting into long, unending streams. From afar, they were the luminous branches of what we call galaxies. That light did not just travel, it remembered. It held the shapes of clusters that once were keeping the breath of stars long gone. And when we look up at the night sky, what we truly see are those memories, the remnants of clusters that once embraced, once sang, now scattered across the heavens like fragments of a distant dream. The universe continued to expand, and new clusters kept being born, burning and fading away, an endless circle. Yet each time one cluster dissolved, a new band of light took its place, weaving itself into the great tapestry of space. The night sky we see today is that tapestry embroidered over billions of years by the hands of countless clusters. Somewhere out there, in regions still nameless and dark, new clouds of dust are stirring again, preparing to give birth to clusters yet to come. This cycle will never end, for it is the heartbeat of the universe, a pulse that has never tired, even after billions of years. When we gaze at the stars scattered across the night, we must remember they are not just stars. They are memories, tiny pieces, left behind from clusters that once grew together. And within those memories, the universe still whispers, no light is ever alone. Amid infinity, where clusters of stars embrace and spin, the universe is preparing for something even more wondrous. For when hundreds of clusters gather, merging into vast spiraling rings of light in the dark, that is when the first galaxies begin to be woven. Within the spinning clusters of stars, some had already begun to age. They had once blazed gloriously, once been the centers of light, once given life to the skies around them. But as with all things in the universe, they began to fade. The fuel in each star's heart dwindled little by little, like a breath growing weaker after a long journey. When a star runs out of fuel, it begins to collapse. With no inner pressure left to push outward, its outer layers are pulled in by gravity, compressed, tightened, heavy. The star trembles, not from fear, but as if trying to hold on to the last traces of warmth within itself. Its vast shell begins to fall inward, while the core grows hotter until it seems ready to explode. Some stars depart quietly. They do not scream, nor blaze in one last flare. They simply fade dim and disappear into silence, like a candle burning out, leaving only a thin wisp of smoke to drift into the dark. The universe watches them go, neither sad nor joyous, for it knows that within that stillness, something new is already beginning. Yet not all stars choose silence. When their cores collapse beyond endurance, the pressure inside erupts outward. In that instant, the star explodes into a supernova, radiant, dazzling, brighter than an entire galaxy. Its light rushes through space like a final song, echoing to the farthest reaches of the cosmos. The explosion is not merely death. It is release, a single powerful breath, pushing everything outward. The ashes of the star are cast across the void. Within each tiny grain of dust lies iron, carbon, gold, silver, all the elements that will one day come together to form planets, oceans, and even the things capable of dreaming. The star dies, but its dust continues to drift, shimmering like pollen carried by cosmic winds. Those particles wander through space, clumping, colliding, weaving into new clouds. And within those clouds, other stars begin to form. The end of one light becomes the beginning of countless others. The universe holds no funerals. It only holds continuations. The fading light is never forgotten. It is reborn in new shapes, a young star, a planet, a swelling galaxy far away. If you look closely, you can still see the remains of old stars, their shells of gas, round and soft, floating through the void like rings of light, each glowing halo, is a gentle farewell from a star to the universe. No grief, no fear, only a whisper. Soft and calm, I have finished burning. And somehow the universe keeps their memory. Every grain of dust, every beam of light, every wave of energy, all are fragments of stars that once burned. They move endlessly, touching new places, awakening new sparks. Thus, the life of the cosmos never truly stops. There are distant regions of the sky where hundreds of stars have exploded, leaving behind fields of fragments and dim light. Seen from afar, they resemble a colossal flower blooming in space, its petals made of dust and light faint, yet breathtakingly beautiful. It is where the universe exhales ashes and inhales new life. When a star becomes dust, it does not vanish. It becomes earth, becomes water, becomes metal, becomes the breath of other worlds. For everything in the universe is made of stardust, even us, no matter how small, carry within us a fragment of stars long gone. Across the vast darkness, glittering, dust drifts gently. It spins, gathers, and settles, silently, unhurriedly. Each tiny particle may take millions of years to find its companions, to come close enough to form something greater, a cloud, a planet, or perhaps another star. And so the cycle of light continues burning, bright, fading away, and being reborn. There is no true beginning, no final end, only breaths alternating softly, like waves brushing against the shore of time. And within that rhythm, from the ashes of millions of stars, another miracle begins to take shape. Streams of glowing dust slowly gather, twisting into immense spirals, so vast they could wrap around the heavens. Light, dust, and gravity weave together into intricate spirals, the first galaxies. From the death of stars, the universe found a way to create itself once more. Those rivers of dust, once part of ancient suns, are now transforming into new bands of light, shimmering, graceful, and more alive than ever before. After the brilliant explosions, the sky sank once more into silence. The stars had died, but their ashes still drifted gently through space. No one called it an ending, because in the universe, nothing ever truly ends. There are only different forms of the same breath, tiny grains of dust so small that no eye could see them, so light they could float for thousands of light years, began to find one another. They gathered, collided, drifted apart, then met again. Each collision sparked a little energy, a faint glimmer of light. Those dust grains did not know it, but they were weaving the very foundations of countless worlds yet to come. The ashes of dead stars held within them everything that had ever been born: metals, gases, energy, and the memory of ancient explosions. Every grain of dust was a fragment of history, a story written in light. And as they blended together, the universe began to write its next chapter. Vast clouds of dust spiraled, contracted, then flared, like the long, slow breathing of space itself. Within those hazy whirls, tiny particles grew into rocks, then spheres, then planets. Some collided and melted into one, others cooled and hardened, forming silent surfaces, waiting for light to touch them. Elsewhere, the densest dust was pulled by gravity into new cores. They compressed until fire kindled once again. And in that instant, a new star was born, not from nothing, but from the remnants of old stars. Light had never disappeared. It had only taken the long way home, returning in a new form. Around each newborn star, small young planets began to circle, like children around their mother. Some were only cold, barren stones, drifting in emptiness. Others held a thin veil of gas that wrapped them like mist. Each planet was its own world unlike any other, yet all shared the same origin, the ashes of light. Lighter dust drifted farther still, wandering into dark regions where light rarely reached. They did not vanish. They waited for a call for a spark, for their turn to awaken. Perhaps millions of years later, perhaps billions, no one hurried. The universe always had enough time for every miracle. If one could see that moment, they would witness delicate streams of light gliding through the darkness like ribbons of silk. They shimmered, changed color, scattered and rejoined the gentle breathing of the cosmos made visible. Space was no longer an empty void, but a soft tapestry woven of dust and light. The ashes of one dead star nourished the life of another. That cycle repeated endlessly, tirelessly, and within that repetition, the universe grew wiser, rounder, as if it were learning how to love itself. Amid the glowing streams of dust, some particles chose solitude. They did not gather into stars or planets. They simply wandered through the dark. Yet sometimes a distant star's light would touch them, and for a fleeting instant, they would sparkle, a tiny flicker in the sea of black, but enough to remind the universe that they still existed. And so light was reborn from fire to ash, from ash to dust, and from dust to flame again. Nothing was forgotten. Nothing was left behind. Every spark, no matter how small, was part of that gentle dance, the eternal rhythm between burning and resting. Then, as countless motes of stardust and scattered glimmers gathered together, they began to form larger, more graceful shapes. Light was no longer a scatter of lonely dots, but a web of luminous trails flowing across the sky. Those trails coiled into vast spirals, stretching outward, spinning slowly like waves of light across the ocean of darkness. From the ashes of dead stars, those radiant spirals were born what we would one day call galaxies. New stars, young planets, and shapeless clouds of dust all moved together in one soft motion, the heartbeat of the universe itself. Light never disappears. It only changes form. It sleeps, then wakes. It fades, then blossoms. It dies, then returns radiant, pure, and gentler than before. And within each breath of that light, the universe seems to smile quietly, knowing that it is still alive, still dreaming. When stardust and light found one another, the universe began to weave vast ribbons of radiance spirals, without a beginning and without an end. Every star, every planet, every tiny grain of dust was caught in that motion, drifting like musical notes in the grand symphony of space. They moved slowly, gracefully, like dancers twirling through an endless sky. Those spirals grew larger and larger. The light of billions of stars blended together, forming soft, misty bands that curved like silver silk, stretched across the dark. These were the first galaxies, colossal machines of light, where hundreds of billions of stars breathed to the same rhythm, spinning together in the dance of time. If you could stand far away and look back, you would see galaxies as floating islands of light in a boundless ocean of black. Some spun like whirlpools, others stretched like butterfly wings, some faded like dissolving mist. Each galaxy was its own world, a painting the universe had spent billions of years creating. Within every galaxy, ancient stars glowed gently, while young ones were being born from clouds of dust. They leaned upon each other like generations of one family, the old fading, the young igniting, all sharing the same slow breath. some galaxies took the shape of spirals, light flowing from their centers, curling outward into soft, endless arms. Some were elliptical, older, calmer, as if they had lived through many seasons of blooming and fading light. Others were chaotic, fragmented like a melody half written, yet no matter their form, all sang the same tune, the melody of motion. With every rotation, billions of stars shifted places. Thousands of planetary systems drifted past one another. Each revolution was so slow that one full turn could last hundreds of millions of years. But the universe was never in a hurry. It let everything move at its natural pace, soft and steady, like the breathing of someone in deep sleep. And among those countless galaxies, there was one special place, the Milky Way, our home. It was neither the largest nor the brightest, but it held a balanced, gentle rhythm. The Milky Way turned like a vast arm, embracing all its stars, hundreds of billions of tiny lights beating in harmony. When all of them pulsed together, the galaxy breathed slow, steady, eternal. Its spiral arms stretched far and wide, glimmering like luminous roads. At the farthest edges, young stars burned fiercely, while near the center, the older ones dimmed with time. Each region of the galaxy was like a different stage of life, all coexisting within the same heartbeat. At the Milky Way's core, hidden deep within its darkness, rested a giant black hole, the heart of the galaxy. It did not shine yet. It held everything together. Like an invisible heartbeat, it kept billions of stars moving in rhythm, preventing them from drifting away. Without it, the galaxy would fall apart, the light would scatter, and the cosmic dance would lose its direction. Galaxies drifted through the vastness of space, sometimes brushing against each other, sometimes merging. When two galaxies met, their lights flared brilliant and fierce, like a symphony at its climax. Stars collided, dust and gas blended, and from that chaos, new generations of stars were born. The universe was still creating, still painting, still breathing. Seen from afar, the universe was no longer cold or empty. It had become a magnificent canvas, glowing with billions of galaxies, each one a story, each story a song of light. They moved in silence, yet that silence was not hollow. It was full of life, motion, and anticipation. Perhaps if we could listen closely enough, we would hear the sound of the universe, not noise, but a deep, slow pulse like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. And in that dream, countless galaxies still spun, still lived, still searched for one another in the endless dark. Within those spirals, stardust continued to gather, curling inward, quietly forming new worlds. In the smallest corners of the galaxies, within hazy ribbons of gas, the first planets were beginning to take shape, softly, gently, like seeds sprouting in the soil of light. The glow of the galaxy shone upon them, warming, cradling, soothing, like a mother's hand. Those young planets did not yet know what they were, nor what they would become. They simply circled their stars, patient waiting. And once again, the universe was on the verge of a new chapter, the chapter of worlds. For within the slow-turning hearts of these galaxies, the first planets were beginning to breathe, preparing for the birth of something entirely new. In the vastness that seems to be absolute silence, where light moves without striking anything, where time flows like a soundless river, the universe has never truly been silent. It still hums steadily, softly, like a breath, for every star, no matter how many billions of light years away, still sings, not with a voice human ears could hear, but through invisible ripples vibrating within themselves. Each contraction and expansion, every motion in the heart of a star creates faint waves, waves of sound spreading outward across space, even without air to carry them. Those tremors find a way traveling through seas of energy, through layers of light, through the dark. If we could hear that sound, the sky would no longer seem still. It would resound as an endless symphony, billions of tones, thousands of rhythms blending into a wordless song. Every star would be a note, every galaxy an orchestra. No conductor, no composer, yet the melody flows impossibly perfect. Some stars sing in deep tones, slow low like the breath of stone. Others sing in high notes, bright swift like crystal bells ringing through the cosmos. Each song is a voice of life, of motion of light in the act of burning. And when those sounds meet, the universe trembles. The waves collide, dissolve, and merge, again forming fine ripples through space like circles on an infinite lake. The universe itself is that lake, and each star is a raindrop falling, gently touching, then fading, leaving echoes that last forever. The light of a star shows us the shape of the universe, but its sound tells us its heartbeat. Those tiny vibrations are the language of time, one humanity has only just begun to hear. Each pulse is a story of birth, of youth, and sometimes of an ending soon to come. Young stars sing loudly, their voices bright and bold, a first greeting to the universe. Older stars hum lower, slower, fading like a sigh that drifts away. Yet even after a star dies, its song lingers, traveling through the void, a final lullaby for the generations of stars yet to be born. If we could gather all those songs, we would hear a symphony without beginning and without end, only continuity, gentle and infinite. Each star sings to its own rhythm, but together they form a single sound, the sound of existence itself. When a star explodes, its sound is a high, brilliant note. When its ashes begin to gather again, a softer, deeper melody takes its place. Thus, the music of the universe never stops. It only changes tempo, shifts tone, alters rhythm, like the endless breathing of light. Sound waves from stars travel through space for millions, even billions of years. Some reach us only now, long after their stars have faded for millennia, a belated greeting, yet still full of warmth. No distance is too great to silence the song of light. Listen closely, and perhaps you'll feel it. The night sky is not still at all. It trembles faintly like a vast heart beating. Every spark is a pulse, every galaxy a breath. And in that slow flowing rhythm, the universe hums its own song, a hymn of infinity, of motion of love between light and shadow. Sometimes amid that boundless melody, there is silence, a galaxy gone quiet, a star that has stopped singing. But the universe does not mourn, for in every pause, another song prepares to rise, a new star learning to hum its first breath. From afar, the galaxies stretch out like luminous strings of a cosmic harp. As light passes through them, the whole universe quivers, as though an unseen hand has brushed across the strings of time. The sound is not heard by the ear, but felt in the soul, where we sense our own smallness within this infinite symphony. And among all those celestial songs, there is one faint, different melody, gentle, almost shy. It does not come from a star, but from a young planet learning to circle its sun, a soft tremor, tender like the heartbeat of something newly born, announcing the dawn of the first world. Light hums, sound spreads, the universe shifts key, the stars keep singing, and in the quiet space between their notes, a tiny planet begins to find its own voice. There are rays of light that left their stars when the universe was still young. They slipped through cold voids, crossed nameless shadows, drifting quietly through the perfect silence of space, neither hurried nor slow, simply moving endlessly, as though light itself was born, knowing it was on its way to somewhere far away, to a place where all light would one day meet. Along that journey, some rays have traveled for billions of years and still have not found their destination. Some have been bent by the gravity of galaxies, curving like ribbons in the wind. Some have been absorbed, some redirected, yet countless others continue patiently onward. They do not know where they are going. They only know that every step of their voyage is part of the infinite symphony called existence. And then one day, after billions of years of solitude, those rays of light finally meet, not in some far corner of the cosmos, but in the eyes of a small creature looking up at the sky. In that instant, all that was ever distant converges, touches, and becomes one. A ray from a star that died thousands of centuries ago, another from a galaxy billions of light years away, both reflected at once in those eyes. The universe infinite, beyond measure, suddenly folds into a single gaze. Across the dark canvas of space, those rays intertwine like delicate threads. They do not collide. They glide past one another, weaving a vast fabric, the fabric of the night sky. Each star is a tiny knot, each beam a connecting thread, and together they form the luminous tapestry that humankind calls the universe. When light meets light, there is no sound, only a faint sensation, like wind brushing over still water, like the long sigh of time itself. Every ray carries within it a story of where it was born, of the star that no longer burns, of the explosions that came before, and of the planets now taking shape. When they meet, they tell one another these stories in a wordless language, one that can only be felt, never spoken. If you look long enough into the night sky, you might see those rays moving slowly. They form the faint river we call the Milky Way, but in truth, it is nothing more than hundreds of billions of stars shining all at once, their light merging, blending, reflecting off one another, a river of radiance flowing through the dark, never ceasing. Some rays have traveled billions of years just to reach this place, only to shine for a single second before fading into the eyes of one who happens to look up. An unimaginable journey, only to exist for a fleeting moment. Yet light never regrets, for to be seen is to live once more. The universe, in its stillness, continues to weave threads of light like these. Beams meet part and meet again in other places in other times. Slowly, over billions of years, the picture of the night sky is completed not by any hand, but by time, by light, and by the patience of infinity. When we look up at the stars, we are witnessing the intersection of countless journeys of light. Every star, every glimmer, every flicker, all are greetings sent from the past. The light we see tonight may have left its home long before Earth existed, before humanity ever dreamed. That light, though weary, still arrives a gentle message from the dawn of the cosmos. Among those endless rays, there are faint ones, so soft they seem to vanish, yet they are the finest, most delicate threads, connecting the most distant stars. Because of them, the night sky is not fragmented, but whole, a seamless fabric that never tears. And within that fabric, light does more than meet, it sings. Each intersection is a note, and the entire sky becomes a quiet symphony. No conductor, no audience, only the sound of light spreading slow and steady, lulling the universe into a deep and endless sleep. Perhaps if the universe has a heart, then light is its pulse. That rhythm ripples through space, echoing in soft waves, creating a music we cannot hear, only feel in silence. Every star sings through its own light. Every beam hums like a breath. And when all sing together, the universe becomes a symphony, the symphony of the stars. Light meets, then drifts apart, like greetings, like gentle touches between souls, adrift in the ocean of night. No one knows where they came from, nor when they will leave. All that is certain is this: in the brief moment when they meet, the universe feels closer than ever, a single warm breath within the boundless cold. And then, while light continues to weave its melody in the quiet between its rays, another sound emerges, low, slow, and deep. It does not come from the light, but from the stars themselves, singing softly through the rhythm of their own hearts. Not every star has a place to belong. Among the radiant clusters spinning together, there are stars that quietly drift away, flung from the embrace of their galaxies, beginning journeys of their own. They wander through the dark with no path, no destination, accompanied only by their own light. People call them the lonely stars, the nomads of the universe. They orbit no one, and no one orbits them. They drift in silence through the cold emptiness in regions where even light itself takes millions of years to arrive. They have no voice yet. If you listen closely enough, you can almost hear their breathing, slow, steady, patient. Each lonely star carries its own story. Some were once part of clusters, but were pushed away by gravity. Others were born too far for anything to ever reach them. Whatever the reason, they keep burning, not to be seen, but because they cannot help but shine. Their light is softer, gentler, more whisper than a song. But it is that gentleness that makes them extraordinary. Amid the crowded sea of stars, a lonely one is like a note that drifts out of rhythm, separated from the grand harmony, and because of that, we can hear it more clearly, more purely. They need no witness, no companion. In the vast dark, they learn to speak to themselves through light, through heat, through the heartbeat of matter burning within. Each beam of light is a question, each vibration an answer. And so, the lonely star asks and answers in an endless conversation with the universe itself. Sometimes their light passes through a distant galaxy, brushing across planets that have never known them. For a brief moment, the skies there glow brighter. Perhaps on some faraway world, small pair of eyes once looked up and saw that faint gleam, never knowing it came from a wandering soul millions of light years away. Not every star needs a galaxy to survive. Some are born to travel, to drift forever. They are like sleepwalkers in the dark, painting their own paths across space. Everywhere they go, they leave behind a soft trace of light, a brush stroke on the canvas of time, curving in ways no one will ever know where they begin or end. Occasionally, two lonely stars meet, a rare thing, almost a miracle. Two solitary flames drifting through infinite space, suddenly moving side by side. They say nothing, simply turn once around each other, their light mingling for a heartbeat before they drift apart again. A fleeting encounter so beautiful that even the darkness seems to pause in reverence. Perhaps the universe needs such pauses. If everything spun endlessly in crowded clusters, there would be no room for silence. And it is the lonely star that keep that silence alive, like the quiet between two musical notes. Because of them, the symphony of light is never too loud. Though they drift without direction, the lonely stars carry a secret purpose. Perhaps they are seeds of light scattered across the cosmos. Each ray they leave behind on their journey becomes a trace for beings of the future, a reminder that even in the infinite, there are those brave enough to burn alone. If one could see the entire sky at once, they would witness thousands of small points of light moving slowly, separating from larger clusters. They drift like solitary ships across the ocean of stars, with no guide, yet never truly lost, because light itself is the path. And so the universe expands, and within that vast unfolding, the lonely stars continue their voyage. They do not know where they are going, but it doesn't seem to matter. For every passing second, every pulse of light is their way of saying, I am still alive. There is something strange. It is their solitude that lets their light travel farther, unobscured by others, unblended with any glow. Their light moves straight and clear, reaching endlessly before it fades. Perhaps that is why the light of lonely stars carries a kind of beautiful sadness, sorrowful but not cold, alone but never hopeless. The universe understands this, and so it never lets any star disappear completely. Their light, however faint, will always find reflection somewhere on a drifting cloud of dust or on a distant planet's surface. In the universe, no light is ever truly alone, for even the most isolated beam finds a way to touch someone, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but millions of years later, when some small being looks up and sees a pale flicker in the dark, a wandering light that somehow brings peace to the heart. And in that moment, the star is no longer lonely because it has been seen. The universe exhales. The light fades. Somewhere in the darkness, another star begins to sing, not with light, but with invisible waves that ripple through space like breath. And as the light of the lonely stars dissolves into shadow, the universe is no longer silent. Threads of light thin as air begin to touch softly, hesitantly, merging into tender waves that flow through everything. From those wandering souls, a shared song rises faint but warm, as if the sky itself were learning to speak to its own heart in a language only light could understand. Though separated by millions, even billions of light years, the stars still shine together beneath one shared sky. Their light drifts through layers of dim dust, crossing countless voids, then blends gently like tiny drops of water joining into a river. No star shines in place of another, yet together they weave a vast dome where darkness can never truly win. From afar, the sky seems still, yet in truth it is a soft conversation whispered among hundreds of billions of stars. Each ray of light is a message, a breath, a heartbeat sent across space. No one knows what they say, only that each time a star flickers or fades, the universe subtly changes its tone, as if adjusting the rhythm of its own eternal song. There are stars that died long ago, but their light still drifts on, steady and persistent, like a memory that refuses to fade. Millions of years later, when that star has become nothing but dust, its light continues to travel, touching corners of the cosmos it never saw. And somewhere perhaps far away, that light still brightens a patch of sky, a gift sent from the past. The light of the stars is the one thing that never truly disappears. It simply continues its journey, passing through worlds, yet unknown, illuminating regions that have never been named. Each time a star goes dark, the sky does not grow poorer, for the old light remains, and in that quiet space, another star has already begun to shine. That is how the universe shares quietly but endlessly. There is no giver, no receiver. Light spreads on its own, like breath, like heartbeat, like a whisper that needs no reply. The sky, no matter how vast, is only the reflection of those countless acts of giving. If we gaze long enough, perhaps we'll realize that light does more than brighten the sky. It makes us feel closer to the farthest things. For within that infinite distance, each ray is a thread connecting star to star, and even the souls who once looked upon them. That light has touched eyes, dreams, and prayers. It is the borderless message of the universe sent, but never expecting an answer. Sometimes we see a star fall, its light fading into the night, yet in truth it never vanishes. Perhaps it has simply begun a new journey, slipping through veils of gas, reflecting on distant planets, continuing to ignite something even it cannot name. The death of light does not exist, only transformation, gentle as another breath of the cosmos. The stars all share the same sky, though they may never meet. Their light mingles, shining beneath one canopy, giving the night its pulse. Whether at one end of the galaxy a star is born, or another fades away, its light remains part of the whole, continuing the story begun by countless others. In its silence, the universe keeps teaching the same lesson, that no light is meaningless. No matter how faint, how brief, it still belongs to the sky, still joins the grand symphony of existence. For in this cosmos, there is no isolation, only the quiet persistence of radiance, unseen yet stronger than anything else. If we listen with the heart, we may feel that every star is holding hands with another across the distance, sharing its small rhythm of light. They may not know each other, but the light does. It moves, embraces, and retells old stories in new shades. Each ray is a memory passed along, and every time we look up, we are witnessing those memories, meeting, touching, and dissolving into one another. Light moves so that darkness can soften. Light is shared so that loneliness is no longer cold. And through that act of sharing, the universe heals itself without words, without touch, only through a thin streak of brightness gliding across the long night. And sometimes, in a quiet evening, you might sense that the sky is listening too. Every upward glance, every moment a human eye meets a star, is the universe realizing that it is still loved even after billions of years. The sky shares its light, and humanity shares its gaze. They meet in a place without borders, in the middle of the night. That light, after its endless wandering through time, has finally found a new home in our eyes, in our dreams, in the stories of the cosmos we keep telling. And there beneath the sky, bathed in shared light, something begins to stir, no longer just radiance, but warmth. Cold planets begin to feel their first sunlight. Frozen surfaces begin to melt. And somewhere far away, the first breath of life takes shape. fragile, gentle, yet filled with hope. Long ago, when the earth was still young, and humankind was nothing more than small, fragile beings living amidst the wilderness, the night sky had already been there, silent, vast, and filled with distant, shimmering dots. No one knew what they were. People only knew that when darkness fell, thousands of lights appeared twinkling like pearls drifting across an invisible sea. Humanity did not yet understand the universe, galaxies, or stars, only that something up there was watching them, gently, distantly, and endlessly. Then, one night, someone looked up and looked for a very long time. They no longer saw the stars as scattered points of light. In their mind, the stars began to connect with fine, fragile lines, woven by imagination, yet full of meaning. Amid the boundless heavens, for the first time, humanity saw shape. A great bear appeared, a resting lion, a man carrying a water jar, a swan with its wings spread. And so, the first constellations were born: Ursa, Major Cygnus, Leo, Aquarius. Each name a story, a whisper humanity sent back to the sky. The constellations became maps of dreams, of memories, and of fears. For in those ancient times, before compasses or clocks, the sky itself was the guide, a mirror reflecting both direction and the passing of time. Nomads gazed upon the North Star to find their way through the desert. Sailors looked to the Milky Way to navigate the open sea. Each star was more than light. It was faith, a small lantern in the vastness, reminding them that no matter how wide the world seemed, they could always find their way home. And so, people began to tell stories. They said it was a hero cast into the heavens, a maiden turned into a swan, a hunter named Orion chasing mythical beasts. They stitched these stories into the night sky, and the sky seemed to listen, glowing just a little brighter. The stars' light and human imagination intertwined, turning darkness into something else, entirely an endless open book. Every civilization found its own way to name the stars. The Babylonians saw divine symbols among them. The Greeks turned them into myths. The Chinese divided the heavens into 3 courts and 28 mansions, a celestial empire. The Egyptians believed the stars were gateways for souls to return home. From east to west, across millennia, humanity looked upon the same sky, yet each culture wrote its own dreams across it. Perhaps in the moment when humans first began naming the stars, the universe grew a little closer. For then, between 2 realms, one of earth and one of sky, an invisible thread was tied. A thread not made of light, but of awareness, of longing, to understand, to reach, to belong. From that moment on, the heavens were no longer just a brilliant veil of darkness. They had form and name and meaning. And each time a person spoke a star's name, the light seemed to answer, flickering softly, a gentle wink from the cosmos itself. Perhaps the stars never heard those names, but in that instant, when someone looked up, they lived again in thought, in dreams, in memory. Thus the night sky became not just a painting of light, but a mirror for the human soul. Each constellation was a story retold across centuries. When we gaze upward, we do not see only stars, we see ourselves. Our ancestors once stood here too, beneath the same sky, wondering the same question: who are we in all this vastness? The stars were given names, and humankind discovered comfort in naming something so distant with something familiar. For when we name a star, we draw it nearer, make it real, as though the light itself were given a soul. And as time passed, people did more than name, they began to listen. They realized that the stars were not just points of light, but markers of time, keepers of memory, written in radiance. When a star fades, we are seeing the past. When a new one shines, we are witnessing the birth of the future. And so, generation after generation, humans have quietly lifted their eyes, continuing to read the oldest letter ever written, the one composed in light. Then something extraordinary happened. As humanity looked up at the heavens, it was not only the starlight that fell upon them, their gaze was reflected back. For the first time, the universe had someone to admire it, someone to dream of it, someone whose eyes could love its beauty. In that moment, light ceased to be a monologue. It became a dialogue. The universe looked at humanity, and humanity looked back. Both remained silent, yet understood one another in their own profound and tender way. And within that stillness, as humankind learned to speak to the heavens with their eyes, something deeper began to awaken, an awareness of existence of being, but a speck of dust that could still look up, still feel, and still dream. From constellations born of imagination, humanity began to see itself. And thus, in the next chapter, light would no longer come only from the heavens, but would begin to flicker within the human heart like a newborn star, rising in the world below. The ancients believed that every star in the sky was a soul that had left the world behind. When the body turned to dust, the soul did not vanish. It became light, weightless, pure, and more enduring than anything else. Thus, the night sky became a sanctuary of memories of those who had lived, who had loved, who had dreamed. And from that belief, the first stories were carved upon the darkness. Every civilization told this tale in its own way. The Greeks painted their gods upon the heavens, heroes, rebels, lovers, who had given everything, then turned into stars so that they would never fade. The Egyptians believed the souls of kings rose into the sky, transformed into stars that watched over the Nile. The Chinese said each star was an official in the celestial court, still carrying out duties long after night had fallen. So when people looked up, they saw more than light, they saw themselves reflected there. They saw their own stories, written in the ink of eternity starlight. Some stars bore the names of gods, but others carried a memory, a lost love, an unfulfilled dream. And in the night, they shone not to guide the way, but to tell their stories. It was said that when someone gazed at the sky and thought of a loved one who had passed, that was the moment a star flickered. Perhaps it was only an illusion, but did it matter? In that instant, humanity and the universe met through memory, through longing, through a fragile strand of light connecting two worlds. Across thousands of years, those stories were passed down through words, through poetry, through song. The sky slowly became an endless book with no first page and no last. Each generation added a line, a chapter, a dream. And when the storytellers died, their stories rose, with them becoming stars, continuing the tale in light. Sometimes we forget that when we look up at the night sky, we are reading humanity's oldest book, not written in ink and paper, but in light and faith. Each star is a letter, each constellation a verse, and the entire universe an endless song about humankind written through its own gaze. Those stories spoke not only of gods, but of loneliness of love that waded across seasons of souls that never got to say goodbye. Perhaps that is why we feel a strange peace when we look at the night sky, because we know that somewhere above, our sorrows are being heard. When night descends, starlight softens, darkness grows tender, and humans begin to dream again. In their dreams, the stories move. Gods step out of constellations. White swans fly across the Milky Way. Tiny lanterns drift through time, touching other souls. The sky becomes a stage that never dims, where light and memory perform the symphony of eternity. And so across millennia, even as science reshaped the way we see the world, even as people learned that stars are distant suns, we still tell stories. Because sometimes truth alone is not enough to warm us. We still need stories and the faith that somewhere in the dark, there are souls still shining quietly but gently. There are nights so clear we can see the oldest, faintest stars, like worn pages in an ancient book, their letters fading, yet still preserved with care. For within every ray of light, something whispers, "I am still here." And perhaps it is humanity itself, with its memory and imagination, that has made the stars immortal. For if no one looked, if no one told their stories, then even the brightest light would remain just light. But when someone names, it listens to it, loves it, that light becomes life. The night sky, then, is not merely the dark dome of the cosmos. It is the diary of humankind, where every breath, every dream, every prayer is written in radiance. And when we lift our eyes, even for a moment, we add our own line to it, with our gaze, our emotion, a heartbeat beating softly against infinity. The stories carved on the darkness never grow old. Each generation reads them differently, hears new sounds within them. Some hear laughter, some a sigh, some hear a mother's lullaby, sung in light in time and eternity. And among the countless stories, there is one still unfinished, the story of humanity itself. As long as people continue to look up, to question, to dream, that story will never end. The light of the stars seems to understand this. They blink, fade, then flare again like gentle commas in an endless symphony. And at the close of every night, as the light dims, the universe quietly turns a new page. That page begins with something small, another spark being born, a new star, a new breath, a new chapter in the eternal story. The cosmos keeps writing, the chapter of the birth of young stars, where light once more rises from the very darkness that came before. Since the moment humankind first learned to look up, we have shared one thing in common, a quiet awe for the light above, whether in the east or the west, beneath desert nights, or across endless seas. All eyes have turned toward the same place, the boundless vault of the heavens, where billions of stars softly sing one eternal song. In the east, the ancients divided the heavens into 28 constellations, arranging them into celestial groups circling the North Star. Each group bore its own sacred symbol, dragon, tiger, bird, turtle, representing the 4 directions and the 4 seasons of the earth. They believed the movement of those constellations was not merely the motion of light, but the heartbeat of time itself, the breath of heaven and earth intertwined. In the West, the Greeks and later the Babylonians and Romans saw the sky differently. They divided it into 88 constellations, naming them after their myths: Ursa Major, Leo, Cygnus, Aquarius. Each name was a story, each shape a memory. When travelers crossed the oceans, they navigated by those same constellations, reading the stars to find their way to predict the seasons and to hold faith in something unchanging amid a world in constant motion. Strangely, though, living on opposite halves of the earth, people were doing the same thing, bringing order to the heavens. They gathered scattered points of light, connected them with lines of imagination, and gave them names. The same sky, but countless ways to understand it, countless ways to love it. Yet within every way of seeing was the same yearning to belong, to understand, to be connected to something greater than oneself. Perhaps it was in that very moment that the sky ceased to be distant. It became a shared home of light, a place where every civilization, every people, every generation found a place of their own. No one owned the sky, yet everyone could call it theirs. When a child in ancient China gazed at the Heart Mansion star, and a Greek shepherd looked up to Orion, both were seeing the same light, only through different names. Beneath that sky, humanity began to realize that wherever they were living within the same symphony of light. Each constellation was a note, each culture a voice. Together, they formed a harmony, a grand composition between humankind and the cosmos. Even later, when astronomers held telescopes and formulas instead of myths, they were not free from that same ancient wonder. They mapped the stars, measured distances, charted the heavens, yet deep down, they knew that everything began from a simple gaze, a moment of stillness, a small feeling of humility beneath the infinite. And strangely enough, that humility made humankind immense. When they divided the sky, they were not breaking it apart, they were sharing it. When they named it, they were not claiming it, they were offering it. The sky belonging to no one became a bridge between all. No matter the age, when night falls, people still look up together, as if rediscovering an old fire glowing quietly within. There are nights when the eastern sky is veiled in white mist, while the western one is clear and bright. Their lights are never the same, yet miraculously they still belong to one whole. For light knows no borders, and the universe has never known division. When astronomers from around the world gathered, they agreed to unify the sky, to define 88 constellations for all humankind. Though the names differed, all were recognized, recorded together upon the map of the cosmos. For the first time, humanity built a shared language, the language of light. From that day forward, each time a new star was discovered, people did not merely record it, they told its story. The sky slowly became humanity's journal, where science and poetry wrote side by side. Some studied the stars to calculate, others simply looked to feel peace. And so within our differences, we found harmony. When we gaze at the night sky, we are looking through the eyes of millions who looked before us, beneath the same dome, beneath the same light, carrying the same question: who are we in this vast universe? The sky, in its silence, became the mirror of humanity's connection. It does not speak, it does not judge, it simply bears witness to everything, to prayers whispered, and to discoveries that changed the world. And within every glimmering star, there is a trace of humankind, of hope, of faith, of the longing for what lies beyond reach. And one day, when the light of these constellations shines upon new worlds, planets still forming places untouched by life, the universe will continue the same story. For just as humankind once shared the sky, now light itself seeks to share life, sowing the first seeds upon distant worlds where the breath of existence will one day be written in the light of ancient stars. Light always arrives later than we think. When we lift our heads and gaze at the night sky, it seems as though we are watching living stars, still burning, still alive. But in truth, some of them may have vanished millions of years ago. What we see is not the star as it is now, but its farewell, a message from the past sent out long before humankind ever walked the earth. Light never hurries. It drifts quietly through the dark, gliding across endless space, passing through clouds of gas and dust, through galaxies and the thick silence of the void. It does not fear getting lost. It simply travels softly, patiently, as if it knows that no matter how long it takes, it will one day find somewhere to arrive. And when that light finally touches our eyes, something miraculous happens. We become the last link in an infinite chain, the final witness to a gaze from a star that no longer exists. In that moment, we are not just looking up at the sky, we are looking back into the universe's past. Every beam, every tiny spark is a memory, a fragment of time preserved as energy, drifting through millions of years just to tell us its story. If we listen with our hearts, we'll hear that the sky is not silent. It whispers, retelling the past in a language that only light can speak. Some stars have long faded, yet their light still reaches us, a gentle message, I was here. Others have just been born, but their glow is still too young to reach us, dreams not yet unfolded. In this way, the universe has found its own way to remember, not through words, not through sound, but through light, something that never truly dies, only continues to travel, continues to tell. When light reaches us, it is more than a sight. It is a touch, a brush, with the memory of the cosmos itself. It's strange when we look up, we are seeing moments that are gone, yet still shining. A star might have exploded millions of years ago, but its light is still on its way, still finding us, still making the night a little less lonely. Light does not understand death. It only understands the journey, the patience of moving forward, even when there is no one left at the destination to receive it. Each ray carries the breath of time. Some are billions of years old. Others left their stars only seconds ago. And when they meet in the eyes of the beholder, past and present merge into one. In that instant, humanity, small and fragile amid the vastness, is allowed to touch time itself. If we could gather all the light in the sky, we might see it as a great river, each beam a droplet, each droplet, holding a memory, a breath, an untold story. That river flows through the night, through space, through the listening souls scattered along its banks. And even though we are only bystanders on the shore, we can still feel its current moving through us. Light teaches us patience, that even when everything has vanished, something still continues, quietly, tirelessly. It teaches us connection, that what we see today began its journey billions of years ago. And it teaches us love, the kind that always finds its way back even after traveling through eternity. Perhaps that's why people have always turned to the sky when they feel alone, because in that light, they find the gentleness of memory, of things lost but never truly gone. Every star is a letter without a sender, yet always with someone to receive it. And even if that someone only gazes in silence, the light somehow understands that it has arrived. One day, light will leave Earth too, carrying with it our image, our breath, our stories. And far in the future, perhaps another being will look up and see that faint glow, wondering, who sent this light is the memory of the universe, something that cannot be erased or forgotten, only carried onward. And because of it, the universe is never truly old. Every night, when light from millions of years ago still reaches us, the past is reborn, not in words, but in the warm breath of radiance. And in that moment, when we look at a star and know it may already be gone, we understand something profound. The beauty of light lies not in its eternity, but in its courage to shine even as it fades away. Within this endless stream of memory, something quiet is happening. While ancient starlight continues to arrive somewhere else, young planets are beginning to glow with light of their own, not to tell stories of the past, but to begin writing about the future. The universe shifts its rhythm. From memory, light becomes the breath of life. And thus, in the next chapter, we will step into that tender moment when the planets begin to kindle their own light, and life for the very first time slowly opens its eyes in the dark. In the silent expanse of the universe, there are stars that have lived for a very long time, so long that even their own light seems to have grown weary. They no longer blaze as fiercely as they once did, no longer burn with the wildfire of youth. Now, their glow is softer, gentler, like the afterglow of sunset at the end of a long day. These ancient stars are nearing the end of their journeys, slowly, quietly, and with infinite grace. They are not sad, nor do they regret. In the world of stars, death is not an ending. As the fuel in their cores begins to fade, the rhythm of their light slows. Some stars shrink into tiny, dense spheres, so compact that time itself seems to pause. Others choose to depart in a magnificent eruption, a supernova bursting forth with a brilliance greater than 1,000 suns, only to dissolve into silence once more. But no matter how they depart, each leaves something behind. Their light, even as it wanes, still reaches out, brushing cold planets, warming clouds of gas and dust, planting seeds of new life. When a star dies, its outer layers drift into space, carrying with them precious elements, carbon, iron, gold, and oxygen, all blending into the void, waiting to one day gather again inside new stars, new worlds. Perhaps this is how the universe keeps its promise that nothing truly disappears. Every ending is but the beginning of something else. Each fading star makes room for thousands more to be born, like forests on Earth, where fallen leaves nourish new growth. The cosmos sustains itself with the light of those that have fallen asleep. If we could hear them, perhaps they would sound like a lullaby, the slow song of elder stars lulling the universe toward rest. No longer the roar of energy, no longer the fury of creation, but a steady, peaceful rhythm, like the heartbeat of someone sleeping deeply. These stars, though dim, still hold a tranquil beauty, the beauty of acceptance of the eternal circle of life and death without fear. In the depths of night, the last light of an aging star still shines faint yet proud. It glows upon distant nebulae, where gas and dust are gathering to form the next generation of stars. From the ashes of the dead, countless new fires are kindled, tiny sparks continuing across the endless tapestry of the cosmos. And then at the very moment the old light fades into darkness, a young star begins to breathe. The universe shifts. Across the vast emptiness, life renews itself gently, silently, yet unyielding. Perhaps that is what makes the universe so merciful. It never allows light to die in vain. The elder stars do not complain. They have burned with all their might, illuminating the heavens for billions of years. Now, as their light dims, they bow quietly, returning their energy to the universe as a gesture of gratitude. From that fading glow space brightens once more, not with the harsh blaze of youth, but with a softer radiance, the light of continuation, of thankfulness, of a perfect balance only the cosmos can comprehend. If we gaze long enough, we will see that in their fading, there is no trace of loss, only profound peace. For everything in the universe is cyclical. Every ending leads to a beginning. Light extinguishes in one place, only to be rekindled in another. The universe does not understand the end. It only knows how to continue. In their own way, the elder stars teach us that beauty lies not in how long we exist, but in what we leave behind when we fall silent. Their final fragile light is a gift to the future, nurturing clouds of gas, thickening stardust, and one day becoming the beating heart of a young star blazing anew in the night. And when that moment comes, the universe exhales a long, gentle sigh. A new generation begins, a new chapter unfolds, where youthful light rises again, sparkling brighter, more radiant, like laughter echoing across the stillness. Light departs, light returns, the old dissolves into the new, and so the cosmos turns an endless symphony without a final note, where every star, old or young, is a part of the infinite song. From within the deep slumber of the elder stars, a new breath stirs. Wisps of cool, faint gas begin to gather. Stardust coils upon itself like tiptoes through the cracks of shadow, and then in silence, a miracle takes shape, the birth of nebulae, where life and light are once again ready to be born from the ashes of stars that have long since fallen asleep. There are moments when the universe seems to inhale deeply, then exhale softly. That breath cannot be heard or seen, yet it ripples through everything, through every grain of dust, every stream of light, every stretch of darkness between galaxies. For billions of years, the universe has been expanding little by little. Galaxies, those cities of light, drift slowly apart. There is no sound, no warning, only perfect stillness, as if even time itself were moving on invisible feet. As the distances grow, space grows colder. Light loses a hint of warmth. Its color deepens to blue, then fades to gray. Galaxies blur and shrink in the eyes of the watcher like shimmering motes of dust floating across an invisible ocean. Yet within that dimness lies a strange kind of beauty, a quiet, tender beauty, full of acceptance. The universe, it seems, is growing old, no longer filled with the roaring explosions or radiant nebulae of its youth. It has settled into a deep calm, like a being that has seen too much birth and too much loss. Faraway galaxies continue to turn slow and steady, like great hearts beating to keep the whole cosmos alive. If we listen closely, we can feel that rhythm, not hurried, not loud, but soft as the breath of someone in peaceful sleep. In every galactic rotation, in every trembling of light, there is infinite patience. The universe does not rush because it has nowhere to go. It simply is, and within that being lies a beauty deeper than any motion. The stars still burn, though they are separated by millions of light years. Each one, like a tiny heartbeat, keeps the darkness from becoming absolute. They are the rare candles of the cosmos, quietly burning to keep time warm. And when a star fades, its light keeps traveling, a small, lingering echo moving through the void. Amid this endless expansion, the universe continues telling its story, not through words, but through light. Each galaxy is a chapter, each star, a sentence, each planet, a silent punctuation mark in its grand chronicle. Perhaps a time will come when galaxies drift so far apart they can no longer see each other, and yet even then, the memory of light will remain faintly etched upon the mirror of space, recalling the shapes of what once was close. Some say that one distant day, the universe will become too thin, too cold, too dark. But maybe within that stillness, there lies another kind of beauty, the beauty of rest, of one final breath after an endless journey. For across those billions of years, the universe has never stopped shining, never stopped breathing, never stopped the cycle of birth and loss. When it slows, when it quiets, is that not also a form of peace? As galaxies drift apart, their light too fades, slipping into shadow. But even within that darkness, the faintest rays persist, crossing the void, seeking places never touched before. Light refuses to stop. It stands as proof that even if the cosmos grows cold, something remains unextinguished: life memory, the idea of existence itself. And who knows, perhaps, among all that distance, there are still galaxies turning toward one another, if only through the gaze of their light. A beam from one galaxy touches another after billions of years, like two old souls finding each other again in the void. In that way, the universe keeps a little tenderness for itself, thin as smoke, yet warm enough to comfort its own long nights. Even as everything cools, a heartbeat still murmurs somewhere, not belonging to any star, but to the universe itself. A low, deep pulse, reminding us that all of this still lives, though very slowly, though very far away. And in that silence, as the universe stretches outward, we too expand with it, in thought, in breath, in gaze. We too slow down, soften, as if learning from the rhythm of galaxies drifting apart, learning how to love stillness. But the universe never truly stops. After every sigh, it prepares for another cycle. From within the calm of cooling galaxies, from the cold ashes of sleeping stars, tiny seeds of energy begin to gather once more. Somewhere far away, something stirs. A faint shimmer flickers, trembling like a newborn flame. And then, like a whisper passing through the dark, the universe prepares to open its eyes again. A new cycle draws near, when ancient dust begins to gather once more, forming newborn worlds, nameless planets, where light will continue its story in the language of life. When the last star fades, the sky falls utterly still. No more distant specks of light, no more galaxies spinning in their luminous dance. Only darkness remains thick, deep, and absolute. After billions of radiant years, the universe closes its eyes, a single breath long soft, as mist dissolves into the endless void. With no light, there is nothing left to measure, to count, or to see. Space itself seems to draw inward, folding into the vast silence of its own being. Every grain of dust, every remnant of ancient stars drifts quietly through the void, as if searching for a place to belong. The universe does not die, it merely sleeps. A deep, timeless sleep after a long life of shining, burning, and becoming. The temperature falls close to absolute zero. No warmth, no motion. Even time seems to stop. Everything returns to its first state, still faint and nameless. The last clouds of gas fade like smoke, merging with the dark. No one is left to witness. No sound remains to echo, only perfect peace, the final exhale of a universe slipping into rest. Yet, within that darkness, so profound that no light can enter, something endures. A tiny spark, smaller than dust, weaker than a sigh, still exists. No one knows where it came from. Perhaps it is a fragment of energy that never went out, a heartbeat left over from the beginning. It does not strive to flare, nor rush to awaken. It simply lies there, waiting, faint, patient, like a dream that refuses to fade. And within that endless quiet, the little spark begins to tremble, not from wind, for there is no wind now, nothing left to move. It trembles because within it, energy still stirs little, but enough to make the void quiver. A pulse so delicate, so thin as a strand of hair, yet enough to awaken the emptiness around it. If someone still existed to witness this moment, they would recognize it. The darkness begins to draw in, no longer infinite emptiness, but gathering, compressing, channeling all its energy toward a single point where the tiny spark lies asleep. Time once still begins to flow again, slowly, one beat, then another, then another. Small ripples spread outward, and the quiet space begins to breathe once more. The universe is preparing for something, not loud, not violent, but gentle, like the breath of a child stirring from slumber. The darkness does not resist. It embraces the motion tenderly. Within the heart of stillness itself, a new seed of life begins to form. No one urges it forward. No one sees it happen. Yet it unfolds light as mist, steady as the heartbeat of creation. From the tiny spark, a thin thread of light emerges. It is not bright, only a whisper, spreading softly through space. That light finds its path, touches drifting dust, coaxing it into motion. The dust begins to swirl, to gather. A slow, graceful dance begins in the middle of the night. Darkness starts to crack. Tiny fissures appear, delicate, as threads, yet enough for light to seep through. Space changes once more. The black curtain that seemed motionless stirs faintly. Something is swelling, a quiet tide of energy, gathering strength, preparing to rise. Not destruction, but rebirth. Like a heart that had stopped, now quivering with its first beat after an endless sleep. All is silent, no echo, no sound of motion. But somewhere deep within the dark, a new heartbeat begins, weak but real, fragile yet fierce. And from that pulse, something miraculous is being rewoven. Light is returning. It may take billions of years before it fully awakens, but time no longer matters. The universe has never been in a hurry. It waits for everything to be quiet enough, deep enough, still enough, for a new beginning to emerge. For perhaps only in silence can life find a place to grow. As the darkness cradles that tiny spark, something can be felt, like the first warmth returning. What seemed to be the end is only the beginning of something else. Just as the deepest night heralds the coming dawn, when the universe reaches the farthest edge of stillness, that is when light is born again. And so, in the heart of endless night, a faint breath stirs. Not an explosion, not a roar, just a tender exhale, as if the universe were opening its eyes for the second time. A new era is about to begin. A gentle breath drifts through the darkness, so small, so thin, it seems too fragile to stir anything at all. Yet from that breath, light begins to seep out, like a veil of mist clearing the way for dawn. After billions of years of slumber, the universe slowly opens its eyes. There is no explosion, no brilliant flash, only a beginning that is soft, hesitant, as if even time itself were shy before what is about to unfold. From that tiny spark, energy begins to spread. Invisible waves weave into one another, forming the first rhythm of a new universe. Space expands, trembling, like the surface of a lake touched by a fingertip. Then, minute particles quietly connect, binding together into the first threads of existence. In the deep darkness, the universe learns once again to breathe, to live, to shine. Light returns not fierce, not blinding as it once was, but tender, wiser, somehow as if it remembers. It carries within it the memory of every burst, every collapse, and every star that once fell asleep in the long night. It no longer seeks to prove itself. It simply glows, calm, unhurried, like someone who has learned that life is nothing more than a chain of endless breaths. From soft streams of gas, clouds of stardust gather once again. They swirl slowly, at first, then ignite. The first star of the new universe is born light as a single note in the symphony of the void. Its glow spreads outward, awakening the slumbering corners of space. Hundreds of other stars begin to kindle, one after another, like seeds sprouting all at once in an invisible garden. And so, the sky is rewoven. New bands of light take shape, young galaxies spin together in their eternal dance. The universe shines again, singing once more in the language of its own light. No one remembers the long night, for everything has been reborn. Death, it turns out, was only a pause, a breath between verses in the endless song of time. Yet if you listen closely, you can still hear the echoes of ancient stars, no longer bright but still resonant. Every newborn star carries the dust of those that came before its light, a continuation of what once burned. And so, the universe is not merely reborn, it remembers. Every grain of dust, every ray of light, every burst of energy is a fragment of the story, retold the tale of stars succeeding one another without end. As light travels farther, new planets begin to take form. Some blaze with heat, others freeze in silence. Others are nothing more than lifeless stone. But among the countless worlds, a few begin to hold warmth, long enough, steady enough, to cradle something more fragile than light itself, life. And from that moment, a new chapter opens, where light not only illuminates, but breathes, speaks, and feels. From afar, the universe still appears to move in circles, birth brightness, and descent into shadow. But if we look deeper, we see that every cycle is slightly different. A longer breath, a warmer glow, a clearer understanding of its own existence. The universe is not simply reborn, it learns, it remembers, it grows. Perhaps this is what makes the cosmos so alive. It does not fear endings, for it understands that endings are only ways to begin again. Each time the darkness comes, it only pauses, takes a deep breath, and exhales light once more. Thus, eternity flows not in a straight line, but in a circle, soft, rhythmic, and endless. The newborn stars sing the same ancient song, the song of light. They blaze, they dance, and they fade, dissolving into space. But as soon as one goes out, thousands more ignite. Like the heartbeat of a vast being, the universe continues to pulse, to live to tell its never-ending story. And within that great circle, we small beings on a blue planet are part of that same breath. We are born from stardust, live by starlight, and when we fade, we return to them again. No ending is ever real, only transformation from one form to another, light to breath to shadow, shadow to dawn. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about the universe is not its vastness, but its dreaming. Every star, every particle, every world is a small dream within the universe's greater dream. And when one dream ends, another begins light as a blink, soft as a sigh. Light returns. Darkness dissolves. A new breath is drawn into eternity. And within that infinite rhythm, we understand no star ever truly disappears. They are only dreaming, dreaming of shining once more, dreaming of a new cosmos, dreaming of us, the tiny sparks that quietly glow beneath the same sky, waiting for our turn to breathe, the dream of eternity. And so the story closes not with a period, but with a breath. For in every grain of dust, every dream, every small soul that looks to the stars, the universe continues to tell its tale. A tale with no beginning, no ending, only a whisper that echoes forever through the night I never left. I am only sleeping.